कभी हिलक हुए नहीं मैम।
एग्जैक्टली। और जितने भी चेहरे आपने आसपास बिठाए हैं, मैं बड़ी कोशिश कर रहा हूँ इधर देखूँ उधर देखूँ ना देखूँ।
तो एक बार समझ भी सकते थे, पर हमारा कत्ल करने वाले हमारे पड़ोसी, हमारे स्टूडेंट्स, हमारी फिल्म देखिएगा आप, स्टूडेंट्स ने किया है, जिन टीचरों ने उन्हें पढ़ा के बीए एमए किया है, हमारे दोस्त सहेलियां, इन लोगों ने किया है, जो हमारे घर में आके खेलते थे बच्चे, जरा से इतने से हमारे घर में जिनने घुटनों घुटनों चलना सीखा, जब वो बड़े हो गए, मूछें आ गई, उन्होंने आके हमारे पति को मार दिया। ये जो गम है, अपनों ने ही हमको मारा, वो गम जो है मुझे लगता नहीं है इनके जीते जी कभी इनके दिल से निकल।
कश्मीर फाइल फिल्म की चर्चा चल रही है, और जो लोग हमेशा फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन के झंडे लेकर के घूमते हैं, वो पूरी जमात बौखला गई है पिछले 5-6 दिन से। और ये फिल्म का तथ्यों के आधार पर, आर्ट के आधार पर उसकी विवेचना करने के बजाय उसको डिस्क्रेडिट करने के लिए बड़ा मुहिम चला है, आपने देखा होगा।
It has been done very late, 30 years late.
I think Bollywood doesn't have that guts to make such kind of films. Hats off to him for showing the facts.
The film recounts a really difficult part of India's recent history. It has been unleashing strong emotion.
आज इनको इतनी दहशत दिखाएंगे कि दोबारा कोई भी काफिर कश्मीर की पाक जमीन पर पांव रखने की जुर्रत नहीं करेगा। मौलवी साहब बताइए, एक काफिर के साथ क्या सुलूक करना चाहिए, बताइए।
कैसे लगी था कश्मीर फाइल?
इसको मूवी बोलना बंद करो आप।
जी सर।
ये पिक्चर नहीं है
जी।
ये एक सच्चाई है इस देश की, जो हमारे देश के सेकुलर शब्द भी मत बोलो उनको, हिजड़ा कायर बोलो उनको
जी।
उन लोगों ने ये सच्चाई छुपा के रखी है। धन्यवाद दूंगा इस डायरेक्टर को जिसने ये सच्चाई बाहर लाया, और जूता मारे उन सेकुलरों को, उन कुत्तों को जिन्होंने इतनी सच्चाई छुपा के रखी है, इस देश को बर्बाद किया है। हर चीज मालूम है क्या? 1947 में कितने हम बर्बाद हुए आप लोगों को मालूम है? कितने हिंदुओं के पे अत्याचार हुआ क्या आप लोगों को मालूम है? किसी किताब में पढ़ाया गया कि वहाँ से औरतों को नंगा करके जब वो निकलती थी हिंदू औरतें तो उनको नंगा किया जाता था? हमारे देश की किसी किताब में पढ़ाया गया?
बुरा लगता है कि इस मूवी का प्रमोशन भर भर के किया जाता है। एक पिटी हुई मूवी को अच्छा दिखाना, एक पिटी हुई मूवी को हिट साबित करने में लग जाते हैं। और बुरा लगता है कि एक ऐसी मूवी जिसके बारे में बात होनी चाहिए उस पे ऐसे रिव्यू लिखे जाते हैं। हाँ, रिव्यू ही नहीं लिखा जाता।
A lot of politics that has gone on in the past that has shaped our perception of history. Then do you think that there is any way out of viewing history without propaganda?
No, I don't think so. I mean, every single person has one point of view of the same situation, but it's guided by whatever they might have faced, or whatever people close to them have faced, or whatever they believed in has faced, right? So such huge events of history, it's always you can never just come out of it and view it like a third person, because if you are, especially if you're a part of it, people close to them might have faced it, and so they're more driven by their emotions.
Acknowledge a particular chapter of history which wasn't covered well, which wasn't for a community that probably wasn't acknowledged enough, and they deserve your empathy and respect also. So I think that should be the intention rather than what we're seeing on Twitter, because Twitter is insane right now, man. So I can't even imagine what you're going through, but I deeply hope for everyone who's watching, please, I hope that is what you imbibe from the film rather than hatred. So yeah.
Well, I think that's the sad thing, no, Anmol, that finally we're so incapable of even having a conversation. That it's all about abuse and toxicity and sort of like
extremes, two extremes.
It's just two extremes, and we're talking about a movie. No one's curing cancer here.
Yeah.
I just think that
हम यहाँ फिल्म देख रहे हैं, वो अपने घरों में अपनी आबादी बढ़ा रहे हैं। नहीं हुई जो 20 साल 25 साल से कम है, अगर हर लड़का एक मुसलमान लड़की से शादी करना शुरू कर दे तो 3
About 90,000 Kashmiri Hindus have fled the region since the 1990s. Sanjay Kaur, who was 22 at the time, is one of them. After seeing the movie, he wants to tell people that the Muslims who made him flee his homeland were only a minority.
It was a Hindu-Muslim, there was a divide. Muslims forced Kashmiri Hindus to leave. I'm not saying all Muslims. I'm saying those who were involved in that. Like basically Kashmir is lost in politics, paradise lost in politics. And every politician is to be blamed for it.
The release of this film is not going to appease an already tense relationship between the Kashmir Valley and New Delhi. The film has already been criticized by several Muslim leaders in the region. The movie has been promoted by the BJP, the Hindu nationalist party of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Anas Siddiqui is a Supreme Court lawyer. He has been denouncing many historical inaccuracies in the film.
This is the government response, this is the MHA response where it says 219 Kashmiris were killed. The movie gives a number around 1700. But to exaggerate those numbers and to pin the blame on one community, it is merely a propaganda to bring in more violence against Indian Muslims, not just Kashmiri Muslims, but Indian Muslims in general.
क्या कहना चाहेंगे आप? ये इस तरह की मूवीज बना के इंडिया क्या रिप्रेजेंट करना चाहता है, क्या दिखाना चाहता है दुनिया को?
देखिए जी, यहाँ पे बात मैं एक ही कहूँगी, जब हिस्ट्री की बात होती है ना, तो हिस्ट्री सिर्फ आपके पास नहीं है, हमारे पास भी है और दुनिया में बहुत सारे लोगों के पास मौरिख बैठे और लिखेगा। हिस्ट्री से आप रूगर्दानी नहीं कर सकते। आप लोग बहुत अच्छे हैं, जो अवाम है, पब्लिक बहुत अच्छी है, इंडियंस, मेरे काफ़ी फ्रेंड्स भी हैं वहाँ के, बहुत अच्छे हैं सारे, बहुत हेल्प करते हैं हर चीज़ में। इधर से पाकिस्तानी भी बहुत अच्छे हैं। खुदारा एक तो हिस्ट्री के साथ इंसाफ कीजिए, हिस्ट्री का साथ दीजिए। आप सिर्फ अपनी मनगढ़ंत कहानियाँ ना बयान कीजिए, ऐसे गुस्सा आता है और मुंह से कुछ भी निकल सकता है।
Especially in any educational system, any country, you get served what the government thinks is right for you. So you don't get to see everything. You only get to see the parts that favor your country. Anyways, so once you come out of it and once you try to look into things by yourself and try to look into things from a different perspective, there is a little bit of guilt and there is also a little bit of shame, because it feels like in the beginning you're all only shown things that favor how you want to think. Like I want to be patriotic, and so I'm only served things that are good for my country. But then once you come out of it, you realize that there
Anybody who tries to convince you a Hindu genocide took place in Kashmir is straight up lying to your face, and for sinister political motives. You see, the United Nations provides an unambiguous definition of genocide in describing it as acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, an ethnic, racial or religious group. But nobody, not Kashmiri Muslims, not the government in Kashmir, nor Pakistan, not anybody for that matter, has ever intended to destroy, in whole or in part, Kashmiri Hindus, who represented 5% of the territory's roughly 10 million people in the 1990s. I mean, even the Indian government produced a report saying that fewer than 220 Hindus have been killed in Kashmir since 1989. Then there's the Srinagar District Police Headquarters, which found only 89 Kashmiri Hindus have been killed during the 1990s. And then there's the Human Rights Commission, which found that of 157 people killed during the early 1990s, 120 of them were Muslim and only 37 were Hindu. Because if 37, 89 or even 219 dead Hindus equals a genocide, then what name do you give to the 100,000 Kashmiri Muslims who have been killed by Indian occupation forces since 1989? I'll tell you what you call it. You call that a genocide.
सपने नहीं हकीकत बुनते तभी तो सब मोदी को चुनते तभी तो सब मोदी को चुनते.
And more to the point, this violence was never about Kashmiri Muslims versus Kashmiri Hindus. It was about hatred towards Indian colonial rule. It was about injustices that flowed directly from Indian military occupation, which is exactly what the producers of the Kashmir Files deliberately keep hidden from you. Instead, they pretend the militancy in Kashmir flows from so-called radical Islamic terrorism, which was why Muslims are portrayed in the film as bloodthirsty jihadists and rapists. Worse, the film aims to legitimize Indian military violence against Kashmiri Muslims, which is why the Indian government is so enthusiastically supporting the film by sponsoring advertisements for it around the world. Because it knows that if it can get American audiences to believe Hindus are the victims of radical Islamic terrorism, then it can silence US opposition to its Hindu settler colonial enterprise in Kashmir, a lesson the Modi regime has learnt well from Israel.
So then what is wrong with it? If the previous community...
Yeah, it's still, it is justified, because at the end of the day, communities are going to look for power, and they're also going to look for the need to be seen. But I don't think you can ever have like two opposing communities or two communities that have shared a certain history. You can never have an equal stance for them, because they always want to gain dominance over the other. They always want a little power over the other, no matter what. So that is difficult, but then that is a lot of times misused by for political agenda or for any other propaganda, and that is where the problem comes. Like,
you know what was really sort of what tugged at my heart was the fact that 20 years ago the villain was the man who hated Pakistan and wanted to create war.
And they are heroes now.
There are heroes now.
They're the same Sunil Shetty character. He said in that film, especially, there's this one thing in a flashback where he says that, when he's getting court-martialed, he's like, we've been at war with Pakistan since 1947. That same dialogue would have got a standing ovation today. I felt it, I could hear the applause around me. But there he's getting court-martialed and saying, he needs mental help.
Yeah.
That's what Nasiruddin Shah's character said.
Correct.
So much has changed. That villain is the hero of most films.
हिंदुस्तान की सबसे प्रसिद्ध यूनिवर्सिटी JNU, यहाँ के कुछ होनहार शिक्षक और छात्र अपने क्लासरूम में कम, समाचारों की सुर्खियों में ज्यादा पाए जाते हैं.
Big breaking news coming in. Anti-national students conducting protest.
क्या JNU राष्ट्र विरोधियों का गढ़ है?
भारत तेरे टुकड़े होंगे.
सुनो बे,
आज हमारी संस्कृति और हमारी अखंडता पे उंगली उठ रही है.
और ये लेफ्ट वालों का जो देश विरोधी एजेंडा है ना JNU में बर्दाश्त किया जाएगा ना देश में.
जय श्री राम.
It was war and our soldiers fought for us and we achieved all of that. So obviously it has like an impression, because other than just the story itself and the way it's told, the score, the shots that you take, the way the actors also like deliver their roles, everything has a way of just like, say like an actor you like is playing in the movie, you're already influenced because you're like, oh, I love this guy, I love his movies, so I also love the film. And if you love the film, you love the content of the film, and you're already being influenced without realizing it. So I definitely think that all of those components kind of do have the power to change your perception of history, even if it may not be accurate.
Barbenheimer is the most exciting cinema moment of this year, which is this battle between these two blockbuster films that are coming out on the same day. On one side, you've got Barbie, Pink Fantasia about the famous Mattel doll.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken.
My mother called me and she took my hand. The moment we entered the house came tremendous flash. It's like 1,000 lightning at the same time. It was so strong. So my mother pulled me down floor and covered my body with her body. We saw her head covered small piece of glass. She was bleeding.
At 29 years old, Paul Tibbets was handpicked to fly the B-29 bomber.
I had more experience with it because, boy, I'm glad that they gave it to me. I can do it, and I will do it. And by doing so, I might take some lives, but I'll save many more. And that's the thought that ruled me all the way through. Would you do it again? If you give me the same circumstances, I would not hesitate.
Wisdom says dropping the world's first and only atomic bombs was essential for ending the Second World War and saved lives. To this day, a majority of Americans still believe it was the right thing to do, as does one of Japan's top historians, Sadao Asada, who says it's what prompted Japan to surrender. Ethical debates aside, was the bomb necessary for ending the war? Well, 6 of the 7 5-star US generals and admirals at that time felt there was no need to drop the bomb because Japanese surrender was imminent. General Dwight Eisenhower, later president, said Japan was already defeated and that dropping the bomb was completely unnecessary. And he wasn't alone in his opposition to that. In fact, a post-war panel of 1,000 experts, including surviving Japanese leaders, concluded Japan would have surrendered even if the atomic bombs had not been dropped. And there's the question, why drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan? As US historian Barton Bernstein put it, whatever one thinks about the necessity of the first A-bomb, the second, dropped on Nagasaki, was almost certainly unnecessary. At least 39,000 people, men, women, children, were instantly incinerated in Nagasaki, at least 60,000 in Hiroshima.
クリストファー・ノーラン監督の作品はかなり好きなんですね。なので映画としてはもちろんすごかったですし、アメリカでアカデミー賞を取れたっていうのもジャンプブレイク作品ではあったんですけれども、ちょっとやっぱり原爆を肯定するような表現だったとそういったところはですね、広島にルーツを持つものとして今回の映画だったらその発明したそのアメリカの視点に立つ
They're going to tell the story the way they see fit, and you're going to take from it whatever you understand from it. And I don't think there's anyone standing there while you're watching the film saying, oh yeah, this is showing like this, but this is the accurate version of what happened. Like, it's just, you take what you take from the film, and if it's accurate, like, well and good. If it's not, then you kind of just...
We imagine a future, and our imaginings horrify us. They won't fear it until they understand it. And they won't understand it until they've used it.
Films have a very strong impact on the way you view things because most people don't have the time to sit and be well read and about like all of these like instances. So the easiest way to get educated is through films. So when you exaggerate it to a level of the level that these films have gone to, it kind of just like skews your perception of like reality, and like it more than anything it just kind of skews the perception of like the younger generation that like watches these films and they're like, oh, that's what was shown, so that's what probably happened. And that's, I don't think that's...
Oh my goodness. Wow. that you kind of dream of this moment. You know you do, right? I could deny it, but I have been dreaming about this moment for so long. But it seemed so unlikely that it would ever actually happen. My children, Flora, Rory, Oliver, and Magnus.
Because I think that it's important to recognize that in the midst of war, leaders make all kinds of decisions. It's the job of historians to ask questions and examine them.